Hello and welcome back to Communication Theories in my basement abode, basement office. This week we're going over chapters 12 through 16. I was mistaken last week when I said that we're not going to have a bunch of long groups. I was thinking four or three was the most, but we'll have a few weeks of four so we can fit them all in. So, my apologies if that caused you any problems. Coming up for the midterm, we will go over the midterm. Will cover the chapters that we've discussed. It will be multiple choice. You'll have a couple hours to get it done. It is not a group project. Do it by yourself. You have plenty of time. Uh, the, it's open book, open internet, open. I don't care. My objective is that I always hated it when I had to take a test and then I had to cram for the test, trying to figure out what I thought was important for the instructor to put on the test. And when I took this class, the professor wanted a lot of memorization. Like list these axioms and where they. I'm not going to do all that. This is an overview of theory. I want you to have an idea. I have to have a test. We're going to have a test, but it will be open book. So I'll tell you right now that the questions and the answers are all shuffled. So you might have questions from chapter 12, then chapter 1, then chapter 4. And the answers you have, you the question you have for, like what's today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, the same person might get that same question, and it might be Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. So they're going to be all mixed up. So don't rely on anybody else. But let's get on with this. Chapter 12 is Communication Privacy Management Theory. And what does that mean? Um, in a nutshell, is it a secret after you've shared it? You might have a secret about yourself that nobody else knows. But if you tell somebody else, is it really still a secret? Do you still have that control over it? So, privacy boundaries are lines, imaginary lines we create saying, you know, my family will know about this little idiosyncrasy, but my friends won't. My significant other will know about this, but my boss won't. Privacy ownership. Who owns the information? Well, in theory, we do. This is about me. If I choose not to share it with anybody, then it's mine. And that's what privacy control is. I have control over who knows this information. Privacy turbulence comes up when somebody else knows it and you don't have the same idea about how to protect it or control it. Basically, I own it. It's mine. I control it. If I share it or I'm discovered, there now becomes a co-owner. One of the chapters talks about Obama smoking. I had a commanding general for a hospital I worked at would smoke, but he wouldn't smoke in public. And he couldn't smoke in buildings anymore. So there was this little alcove that he would kind of hide in so he could have his cigarette. But a couple of people caught him. So, now there's co-ownership. Co-owners need to agree on the boundaries. If I tell you my secret and now we both know it, we need to agree on what the boundaries are. Who can it be shared with? How much of it can be shared? Do you need to confirm with me before you share it? And that's why I said in our discussions, I put a point in the introduction and in the syllabus. If somebody shares something in a discussion, it's still theirs. You have no right to go out and share it. And turbulence is created when the co-owners have a different perspective. Sometimes I might have told one of my son's girlfriends about something he did when he was young because I thought it was cute, but my son didn't want her to know that. So we had a different perspective. I thought it was cute. He didn't. So I did it anyway. Rule-based theory is the theory that's created by, it's my rules for sharing. This is what I decide I'm going to share. What rules I've created for myself to whether or not I'm going to share this information. And rule-based theories are created different ways. One of them is culture. You know, in a culture gives you rules you have to live by. For example, I had an aunt. My mom just passed away. She was 92, and one of her older sisters, much older, was married to a guy that used to beat her, but she didn't tell anybody. And she didn't tell anybody because the culture said back then that you didn't do that. You don't say anything. Um, she kind of cured him one time by sewing him to the sheets and beating the hell out of him with a frying pan, and he quit beating her after that. But she suffered in silence, basically. Gender. Uh, the book says that men and women tend to reveal more to women than they do to men. I don't like generalities like that per se, because there's some of my male friends that I have said things to and told things that I'd never tell a female friend. But in general, people tend to reveal more to women. Motivation. Do I have a motivation to tell somebody my secret? Uh, the book uses an example of a child being abused. Yeah, I got a motivation. I don't want to be abused anymore. Context. Is it a safe place? They won't share it, especially in the arena of child molestation, if they don't feel like it's safe for them to do so. If I might share something with my wife because we've been married 40 years and it's a safe place. I can talk to her honestly. I can tell her how I feel about something. But if we ever were to have a divorce, it might come out. So that safe place may not always be safe. Risk benefit ratio. What does that mean? Well, we've talked about cost reward before. If I tell you this, what's it going to get me? Is it going to benefit me? I'm taking a risk by telling you the secret about me, but if I tell you, am I going to benefit from it? So when you share something, you now have a collective privacy. We both know this. We both own it, but and we both need to protect it. So it's a collective privacy. A mutual privacy boundary is something that hopefully we agree to. Uh, if it's not agreed upon, it's really not a mutual privacy boundary. A deliberate confidant is somebody that sought the information. You have a friend and you see they're upset. And it's like, what's wrong? Oh, nothing's wrong. No, I can tell something's wrong. What is it? What is it? So I'm trying to get that information. And if they tell me, then it's because I deliberately seeked it. A reluctant confidant, on the other hand, is somebody that may not have wanted to know what your secret was, but you needed to tell somebody. And that actually could be that person sitting next to you on the plane that you'll never see again. But they didn't want to hear your story, but you gave it to them anyway. A shareholder is someone who takes the original owner's lead on the information, the privacy. I'm a shareholder because now I have a stake in what you or a share of what you were telling me, but still, I'm going to follow your guidelines for privacy, shall we say. A stakeholder, on the other hand, has information, has a say in how the information is guarded. Uh, as a married couple, if I tell my wife something that will affect our marriage or our family, she is now a stakeholder because she has a say in what's going to happen because it could affect us both. Boundary turbulence is created when co-owners do not agree. We've already mentioned that we both have this, and according to the book, there's basically three different types of boundary turbulence. One of them is fuzzy boundaries. You caught me doing something, and I didn't want anybody else to know, but I didn't tell you I didn't want anybody else to know, and you know, I told you, just my closest friends know about this. So you're assuming that other people know, or you don't know where the limits are. Intentional breaches are much like I was talking about a divorce. It was something that we held in confidence together, but now he's an idiot, and I'm divorcing him, and I'm going to tell this. Or she's an idiot, and I'm divorcing her, and I'm going to tell this. I did it intentionally. I broke the rules strictly because I wanted to. And mistakes kind of, to me, fell from the more from the fuzzy boundaries than anything else. If I you catch me doing something, and I say, it's okay, my friends know about it, and then you mention it to a friend of mine, they may not have been one of the friends that knew about it, but you thought they were. So, chapter 13, media multiplexity theory. All right. What does this mean? Well, a bunch of big words basically means different channels to communicate, different mediums or modes to communicate in. For example, I have my kids' phone number, so I can call them. I can text them. They are on Facebook, so I can Facebook them. I can go see them. Different ways to communicate. Then there's different ties, they say in the book. A weak tie is an acquaintance. I'm a member of the Rotary Club. There's about 300 of us in my club. Some of them are very close to, and I have multiple modes to communicate with. And others of them I see on a Wednesday when we go to lunch, and I say hi. So, an acquaintance. A strong tie is a close friend. Somebody that you have multiple ways to communicate with, somebody you know a lot about, somebody that's intimate with you. A tie strength is the closeness of time and intimacy and friendship. All those things make us a strong tie. Strong ties sometimes are weak, and weak ties sometimes are strong. And what the book meant about that was we all have our social network, and he uses a good example of it. And if I were going to, in this case, the author was moving somewhere, and he needed some connections in that area, and he didn't have any, and none of his strong tie connections had connections in that area either. But some of his strong tie connections, or some of his weak tie connections, had a connection somewhere else. A friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. So the weak tie in that particular case was stronger because it got them the information he wanted, which leads into bridging ties. A friend of a friend of a friend. I don't know. I get on every now and then. Some of you may do it as well. get on Facebook or whatever social network you're on. Does anybody got any information about such and such? And they'll connect you through different friends. Media multiplexity, strong ties use more than one medium. That's what they mean about multiplexity, different types. There are quite a few of my Rotary friends that I've got their email address of, but and sometimes I have an email and I have a phone number, and sometimes I will call them and sometimes I will email them, and other times I don't know them and I have to send an email to introduce myself. I mean, we're just acquaintances. Communication contents differ by the strength of the tie, not the medium used, not the method of communication, but content differs by how you communicate. When my mother passed away, I did not get on my family's Facebook or messenger text message connection and send out a text. Everybody say, "Hey, grandma died." I called my daughter. I called my two sons. So they can in turn tell their spouses and their kids because it was something that was delicate, so to speak. It was something that was detrimental. It was something that now, if I'm planning on barbecuing on Saturday and cooking a brisket, I might get on my text message group text message for the whole family and say, "Hey, I'm cooking a brisket Saturday." So the content differs by the strength of the tie, not the medium used. Group norms dictate the hierarchy. What that means is what medium is used most often in your group. I just got a job as an ambassador coordinator for the Blinded Veterans Association. Their group norms dictate that I use Microsoft Teams. I don't like Microsoft Teams. But I'm learning to use Microsoft Teams because that's what the norm of that group uses. This is our standard, so I have to follow the group's norm. Adding or subtracting media influences weak ties. If I just have a phone number for a person, and then I add their email address, and then I add their address, and so I can physically go see them and talk to them, and then I add a LinkedIn connection and a Twitter connection, and it makes the weaker ties stronger. So adding would influence the weak ties. Subtracting would also influence them. My friend of mine, good friends, and I quit sending messenger, and I quit sending texts, and I quit sending emails, and I quit calling. It weakens the tie. We drift apart. I'm sure y'all have all had some friends that you drifted apart from. Latent ties are ties that are possible connections. Your friend's friend is a weak tie. Your friend is a strong tie, but his friend is a weak tie to you, and his friend's friend is how it is. So latent ties are the possibility of connections, and that's one thing that's driven LinkedIn immeasurably. You're connected with these two people, and they have friends with these two people, and I don't know how many of you are on Facebook, but every time I get on Facebook, I get a people you may know. And it's like, Bob, 6 friends in common. Sue, 2 friends in common. Jeff, 36 friends in common. And Cindy, but no friends in common. It's like, I don't know how they think that this person and I might have something in common. None of our friends, either one of us have friends in common. And something I've also found on there is it's kind of weird. I'll look at it sometimes and say 2 friends in common. So I click on it, and it's one friend from this group and one friend from this group that I had no idea we had a connection Anyway, so it's kind of funny that sometimes the 6 degrees of separation thing going on, you have connections with other people that you didn't even know. Influence. The next section of the book is influence. And in other words, it's just another word for persuasion. How do you influence somebody to do something? How do you persuade them to do something? You see a TV commercial, it's got the sad puppy dog eyes, and he's down there and it's cold and it's snowing, and he's got a chain around his neck, and they got this sad music playing. They're trying to influence you or persuade you to give them money to take care of that dog. My perception is they didn't run around with a camera and jump in everybody's backyard to take these pictures. They were probably staged. But they're trying to influence you. Well, there's some communication theories on persuasion, and we're going to talk about a few of them. Chapter 14, the social judgment theory. In a nutshell, it says that you judge everything you hear. You heard this on the news, and you already had your mind made up about a portion of that topic. And so you will either accept it or reject it based on a continuum of what your thought process is. So social judgment involvement is comparing this idea to your current attitudes. Whatever it's on. If it's on sexuality, if it's on politics, if it's on gun control, if it's on abortion, whatever it is, you already have some point in your mind that you stand. And anything somebody says about that, you will judge that new idea compared to where you're standing. So in the social judgment theory, there's a few latitudes. The latitude of rejection. This is where I stand on tea with sugar in it. I don't like it. I like unsweet tea. And this is the new tea that has more sugar. Well, it's in my latitude of rejection because I don't even want to talk about tea with sugar in it. Latitude of acceptance is the range of ideas that our ideas accepted in. Well, because I am almost diabetic and I like unsweet tea, and you have a new tea and it has an artificial sweetener, it may be more closer to my latitude of acceptance than my latitude of rejection. And I might try it. I'm not going to try this sweetened thing, but it's with sugar, but I might try this other one. And latitude of non-commitment is basically, I really don't care. I don't care if it's sweet with sugar or if it's sweet with sweetener. If it's not unsweet tea, I don't care. I'm going to reject everything or not commit to anything. That's probably not a good example, but latitude of non-commitment is it doesn't fall way over here where I'm going to reject it, but it's not so close to my idea that I'm going to accept it. It's in the range of, yeah, I don't care. I don't have a one way or the other comment on it. It could be politics. And it could be a bill that they want to pass about one-legged polo players that are 6 foot tall. It's like, I don't play polo. I got 2 legs and I'm 6 tall. I don't care. So that's a latitude of non-commitment. It's not going to push you one way or the other. Ego involvement. If it's important to you, that's what ego involvement is. If it's important to you about recycling, and you're going to come, that's important to me. Anything against recycling, I'm going to reject. Anything close to, I might. So ego involvement isn't important to me. If it's not important to me, then I'm going to be less likely to accept it or reject it. The book talks about gun control. If it's important to me that we can all have guns, then I'm going to reject anything that says no guns. But if it's important to me that we have some type of control over guns, and I don't think everybody should have a gun, then my ego involvement is going to be in that arena. And if somebody says something about free guns for everybody, then I say no. Contrast. Contrast is believing the idea is farther from your base or your anchor, as the book calls it. That's nowhere near where I'm thinking. No, and it might be closer than you think if you actually give it a chance. But immediately putting up a block saying, no, that's too far to the right or too far to the left, I'm not even going to consider that. Assimilation, on the other hand, assimilation is where you believe the idea is closer to your base or your anchor than it really is. If you are pro-gun and somebody says something about outlawing guns or registration of guns, everybody should have to register their guns, then you might think, nope, that's not what I believe, so it's farther away when actually it's closer. Or you might believe that, that's not too bad because I know a lot of idiots that don't need to have guns. So, if that's as far as they go, I'm okay with it. So it may be closer to you may believe it's closer to your anchor, where the whole time it's still in the same place on the continuum. The boomerang effect is where you actually push somebody. I'm trying to persuade you to buy this cup of tea. And I'm trying to persuade you, and I'm trying to persuade you, but then the more I do it, the farther you get away. Because no, I'm not going to do it. So the boomerang effect is actually listeners are driven in the opposite of direction of what you're trying to get them to do. Reference groups. Reference groups are groups of people that you identify with. If you are a staunch Democrat, then that is your reference group, and you are going to believe the stuff Democrats say. If you are a staunch Republican, then that's your reference group, and you're going to believe the stuff that Republicans say. I try to stay out of politics in class, but I will say that I've never voted a party ticket in my life. I believe in research and finding out what's going on. And I might vote for a Republican on this, and I might vote for a Democrat because I think it's the best person for the job. But I know a lot of people that are Republican, and they will go in, they will vote a Republican ticket every time because they're Republican. That's their reference group. Or I'm going to vote Democrat, every one of them Democrat, because that is their reference group. Chapter 15. We're almost there, folks. 2 more chapters to go, and you'll be done listening to me. The elaboration likelihood model. One of the first thoughts I had about this one is all the rest are theories, and this is a model. Well, technically, it's a theory too. The elaboration likelihood model is also persuasion. When I teach public speaking, I actually talk about the social judgment theory and the elaboration likelihood model, because when you give a speech, one of the speeches that my students have to give is a persuasive speech. So what is actually the elaboration likelihood model? Well, simply put, when you get persuaded to do something or you make a decision to do something, there's one of 2 things you do. Either you think about it or you don't. So the elaboration likelihood model says there's a central route. Thinking about the message. When I bought my truck, I used the central route. I have no car payments. My insurance isn't that high because my van's old. Uh, the seats are wore out. It is costing me more money to maintain it. I need to get a new vehicle. How much a monthly payment's going to be? How much can I afford my budget? What's the new insurance going to be? How much is that going to be out of my budget? Um, what size do I need? I asked my wife, what do you want in a truck? And she said blue. So that was the easy part. But message elaboration is how much will a person carefully think about what it is. Buying a truck, to me, that was a big thing. I thought a lot about it. The peripheral route, on the other hand, is not thinking, just doing. When I go to the store, I try to live in a budget and things like that. But when I go down the laundry soap aisle, I don't stop and compare all the things and figure out which one is it cost me the least amount of money for the most washes. I buy Gain. Why do I buy Gain? Because my wife told me to buy Gain. Why does she buy Gain? Because her mother used Gain. It's nothing to think about. Now, technically, the peripheral route we'll talk about celebrities, endorsements, all. We'll get to that in a minute. But it's I don't have to think about this. I can just do this. I can make this decision. And why do we make that decision? Reciprocation. Why do we use the peripheral route? Reciprocation. You owe me. Last time we went and had steak, and this time I want to have pizza. So we did what you wanted last time. Okay, fine. We're going to do what you want. Consistency. We've always done it that way. Yeah, but what? No, we've always done it that way. Okay, fine. Social proof. Everybody's doing it. If everybody's doing it, then I might as well do it. Everybody's getting on Facebook, and then everybody's getting on LinkedIn, and everybody's getting on Twitter, and everybody's getting on Spotify, and everybody's getting on this, and everybody's getting on that. Why do you think? Do you think about it? Nope, you just do it because everybody's doing it. Liking. I like this person. My wife loves to watch CSI and murder files and forensic files and all this other stuff. I really don't care for that. But I watch it. Why? Because my wife likes it. I like to watch Big Bang Theory. My wife hates it. She said, why do you watch it? I said, because I work with those guys. And she said, but okay, I'll watch it. I enjoy watching baseball. Sometimes my wife will watch it with me. Not because she likes baseball, but she likes me. I hope she does. And so she'll agree to watching baseball. Luckily, we have enough TVs that we can each watch what we want to watch. But sometimes we like to do it together. Authority. I said so. How many times did you do something your mom and daddy told you to do, not because you wanted to, but because they told you to do it? And if your mom was anything like mine, I'd say, why? She said, because I said so. Why do you stop at a stop sign? Because the authorities say you have to. No peripheral, no thinking about, there's a stop sign. Maybe I should stop. Maybe I shouldn't stop. I'm not sure what I want to do. So you stop. And scarcity. Scarcity. Is it scarce? Is it hard to find? Are they running out? Think about this. Ads that you've seen on TV. We're going to give this deal to the first 100 people that call. It ends at midnight tonight. They're doing that trying to make you not think and do it. Motivation. Why would I want to think about something? Why would I want to use the central route as opposed to the peripheral route? Is it worth my time and energy? Excuse me. To me, buying a new vehicle, it was worth my time and energy. Because I wanted to make sure I could afford it. I wanted to make sure that it was what I wanted. And so, the motivation I had to do it was I thought it was worth the time and energy. Next is the ability. Do you have the ability to do it? Well, if you want me to analyze quantum physics, I might have the motivation to. I might really want to do that, but I don't know enough about quantum physics to be able to do that. Uh, do I have the ability to analyze baseball teams? I love watching baseball, but no, I don't have that much knowledge that I can actually do it. I'm an Astros fan because that's where I grew up, and it's one of the peripheral things. I like them. Do I like Atlanta? No, I don't like Atlanta. I didn't grow up in Atlanta. I grew up in Houston. And do I have the ability to actually crunch all the numbers and analytics of modern day baseball and all the teams? Nope. Even if I was motivated to do it, I don't have the ability. Biased elaboration is top down thinking. Biased elaboration basically is, yeah, I'll think about this, but my mind's kind of already made up because of the social circles that I'm in, and this is the way everybody I know thinks about it, and so I'm going to consider it, I'm going to think about it, but I'm looking at a biased perspective of it. I'm getting information that is already leaning toward the way I feel. Objective elaboration is bottom up thinking. All right, I need to get a new car. Well, my dad always drove Oldsmobiles that are new truck. They don't have trucks. I had a Chevy truck. I like that a lot, but I'm going to buy a new one. So what I need to do is look at Ford trucks, Chevy trucks, Dodge trucks, and which one gets the best gas mileage, and which one has the best price, which one has the lower insurance, which one is safer, which one can I get today as opposed to a month from now, the color that I want. So objective elaboration, you look at the whole thing bottom up, not, well, I had a Chevy truck before, so I'm gonna get a Chevy truck this time. And now I'm gonna elaborate on, how much it's gonna cost me. A strong argument generates favorable thoughts. The book has a pretty decent explanation of that. And it talks about drinking and driving. If you get busted under 21, they want to pass a law where you lose your license immediately, and da 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 da. And the argument that the person makes is heartfelt about her children, all this other stuff. A weak argument they show, well, if we have this automatic suspension, then these Department of Motor Vehicle workers, they don't really they have to spend less time doing this, and now they can focus on doing this. And it's like, I really don't give a damn about that's in my, referring to the last theory, that's in my, latitude of non-commitment. I don't give a damn about that. So if you don't have a strong argument, you are definitely going to lose some people. Most messages are actually processed peripherally because Michael Jordan said it, or because Ronald Reagan said it, or because Trump said it, or because Biden said it, or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm doing that. But what you have to look at when that aspect is source credibility. How credible is this person? What's your perception of that speaker? If you're a Trump fan and Biden says something, you're not going to consider him credible. If you are a Biden fan and Trump says something, you're not going to consider him credible. And most peripheral decisions are temporary. Most of them are not permanent decisions. I know you folks have been waiting for this moment, and that is chapter 16. Last chapter. Cognitive dissonance theory. So what is cognitive dissonance? Basically, it's mental uncomfortableness. Either your actions made you feel uncomfortable because they didn't match with your perception of self, or your idea of this and your idea of that created conflict because you thought both of them were right, and now one of them, you realize they both can't be right. So, what do we understand with the cognitive dissonance theory? If something doesn't make you feel right, then we want to fix it. And by either changing our attitude or our behavior, we fix it. We make it better. Selective exposure prevents dissonance. What that means is if I only watch Fox News and then I agree with Fox, then I am less apt to have dissonance. If I only watch MSNBC and I agree with MSNBC, then I'm going to have less dissonance. But if I agree with MSNBC and I watch Fox, it's not going to make sense to me. It's going to cause me some, no, that's stupid. Why are they doing that? Or the other way around. Post-decision dissonance is when they talk about doubts after a major decision. A year ago, I was going to buy me a tractor. And I thought about it a lot. I used the central route to find out about it, did all the numbers on it. I actually bought it, but hadn't signed the papers yet. And then I started having this, really, should I, can I afford it? Yeah, I can afford it. But what made the decision to not finalize the contract, which is kind of different because according to the book, it's what you made the decision to buy it. I realized that with my vision, I may be able to drive my dream tractor a year or two before I start running into trees and over fences and everything else. And so, yeah, I'm not going to spend that kind of money for a tractor that my dream tractor when my grandsons are probably going to end up using it and I won't get the pleasure out of it. So, I made the decision to buy it. I went through with all the paper, everything except the final signature. They were scheduled to deliver it, and I said, nah. Minimal justification. Okay, what will I settle for? My wife wants me to do this. I really don't want to do that. But if I do this, what is going to be my reward? What am I going to settle for? So I get rid of the dissonance. I don't want to do that, but I'll do it for $10. I don't want to do that, but I'll do it for a home cooked meal. Whatever the justification is, you get rid of the dissonance because you're getting a little out of it. Compliance. Acting the way I'm expected to act. In our society, a lot of times we do things because it's the quote appropriate thing to do. For example, my mother-in-law passed away, and I went to the funeral, and my brother-in-law, as a matter of fact, and I wore a suit because to me, that is what I am supposed to do. That's what I grew up that way. You go to a funeral, wear a suit. Well, my wife's from Illinois in a blue collar family, and I was the only one in a suit. At the funeral for my brother-in-law, people kept coming up to me and asking me where the bathroom was now because they thought I worked at the funeral home. Because they had no idea. And my wife left there 40 years ago. Half of them didn't even know he had a sister. But to me, that's I was expected to act that way. My wife didn't understand it. My brother-in-laws didn't understand it. But if I had gone in polo, in blue jeans, I would have been uncomfortable because I wasn't acting the way that I was expected to act. And I'm comfortable in most cases acting the way I'm expected to act. There are times where I may be expected to do something and I'm not comfortable with that. Counter-attitudinal advocacy. Do as I say, not as I do. I smoked cigarettes for years. Tell my kids not to smoke. That is the simplest way to describe counter-attitudinal advocacy. It's not what I do, it's not what I believe, but it's what I believe you should do. Self-consistency. The only dissonance, it's only dissonance if it's counter to your self-concept. These last three are different renditions of the dissonance theory. And the first one is self-consistency. It's not going to cause dissonance if it's not counter to what my self-concept is. If my kind of self-concept is to wear a suit to a funeral and nobody else there has one on, it's not going to bother me. If it's not their norm, it doesn't bother me. So it's not going to cause me any dissonance. Personal responsibility. It's not dissonance unless our actions hurt someone else or hurt an innocent person. A lot of people will do things that they think aren't hurting anybody and not cause them any dissonance. But if they felt like they were hurting someone, they would. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody say about breaking the law? Well, it's not hurting anybody. I'm just taking money from the insurance company. They got a lot of money. I'm not hurting anybody. So they didn't have any dissonance about breaking the law because they weren't hurting anybody. And self-affirmation. Self-affirmation dissipates dissonance. Yeah, I did drink a little bit too much the other night, but everybody else was too, and I wasn't driving anywhere, and it's only once, and I don't normally do that, so yeah, I'm all in all, I'm a good guy, and I don't do that too much, so yeah, I'm not worried about it. So the self-affirmation will dissipate the dissonance. So that, my friends, hopefully you're my friends. We'll say acquaintances because we don't have any strong bonds. That's chapters 12 through 16. I'll post it along with this video, my notes, and you folks keep making comments like you're making them. Have a great week. I hope I'm not too boring. I hope this is kind of giving you a synopsis of the chapters that makes it more understanding. I can't go in depth. We don't have the time for that. And you'd probably be even more bored than you already are. Have a great week. Bye.